Morning. Take a look at this. This opioid crisis, this is an epidemic in the true sense of the word. I want to paint a picture of just the urgency we are facing in this country. This chart shows you that the national death rate, 13.3 opioid overdoses for every 100,000 Americans. As you can see, there's been a huge spike. This goes from 1999 to 2016. We had a 28% spike in the opioid death rate from 2015 to 2016. 28% increase in deaths in the death rate of opioids in 1 year in this country. This is an alarming scale. This spike represents so many families who are grappling with the loss of a loved one. So much potential squashed and squandered in this life. People at the peak of their lives losing their lives. All told, an estimated 2.7 million people across the country are struggling with opioid dependence or addiction. You heard those heart-wrenching stories yesterday. This is very serious. This is costing us lives. This is why we are so focused on ending this opioid epidemic. It's why the bills we're passing this week and next week are so critical. We are acting on more than 50 initiatives covering a range of areas: prevention, treatment, recovery support, strengthening law enforcement tools, helping veterans, expanding research. This is all hands on deck, and we're going to keep at this for the sake of the families who are hurting right now. Questions? Anna.
I was wondering if the House will support language to restore penalties on CCE if that comes over from the Senate and the
Don't know the answer to that question. We'll go to comments. Our bill is already done. The NDAA is already out of the House. Senate passed their version, and so that's going to be a question that our conferees will be dealing with. I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to micromanage the place. I'm going to leave it to our conferees. Soybean. Sorry, Siobhan. Sorry. It's Gaelic spelling of Siobhan, right? Yeah.
Did you support Donald Trump's comments about the dairy tariffs? Was he raising a legitimate issue?
Yeah, I've long been critical of Canada's dairy policies, whether it's Class 7, whether it's market access. I can go on and on about dairy if you really want me to, other than Canada has been known to be protectionist on dairy. They're a high-cost producer, overproducing and dumping into our markets. So clearly dairy is a source of frustration with NAFTA from Canada. Who are you with?
Me?
Yeah.
You're a friend.
No, you.
BuzzFeed News.
Okay. Sorry. No, I knew. I didn't know. I didn't recognize. Sorry.
I was wondering, there's been criticism of the Senate sexual harassment bill from both the House and from outside groups saying that it doesn't go far enough to establish personal liability.
Yeah.
Wondering where you are.
Yeah, I like the House version. We obviously passed our bill, and we're going to have to go and reconcile these differences between the House and the Senate. Nancy.
Speaker, are you comfortable with the current zero tolerance policy leading to parents and children being separated at the border?
No, I'm not. This is because of a court ruling. And so this, I do think, ought to be addressed. We believe it should be addressed in immigration legislation. So what's happening at the border and the separation of parents and their children is because of a court ruling. That's why I think legislation is necessary. Casey.
Mr. Speaker, on that point, this is actually a policy change from the Trump administration for zero tolerance.
There's also a court ruling involved. So this is something that we think should be addressed in legislation.
Leaders have come out and said that this is inhumane. Do you agree?
We don't want kids to be separated from their parents. I think I just made that really clear. And we believe because of the court ruling, this will require legislative change. Juan.
Mr. Speaker, in 2007, you were one of 176 Republicans who voted for a press shield legislation.
Yeah. Wasn't that Mike Pence's bill?
I think it
Yeah.
was Mike Pence.
Yeah, I still support it.
You still support
Yeah,
it?
that's what your question was?
Jim Raskin and Jim Jordan have
Yeah.
introduced the bill to the session.
Voted for it back then. I haven't changed my position on it.
Bring it to the floor.
I hadn't thought about it until you just brought it up. But my position has not changed. I'm still for it.
Are you
Oh.
confident, Scott?
Who are you with?
ED News, George Hill. Scott Pruitt at UKR, are you confident with him continuing given all the ethics violations?
Frankly, I haven't paid that close attention to it. I would refer you to the authorizing committee that oversees the EPA. I'm glad with the kind of regulatory position they've taken, but I don't know enough about what Pruitt has or has not done to give you a good comment. I was actually pointing to Patrick, yeah. Sorry.
No, actually, question on opioids.
Thank you.
This is multi-year at this point. We all heard a ton about it in the 2016 campaign, places in New Hampshire. are the 50 bills the solution? What's your view in terms of
Yeah.
what Congress's role is and what should be done to address, from the federal government side of things, something that has obviously become an epidemic?
Yeah, so
proportions?
what we're trying to do is get on top of this problem because this problem crept up on America very fast. We started with CARA, the Comprehensive Addiction Recovery Act. Then we financed CARA. So that has now passed into law and it's being financed. And what's happening is, for instance, in Janesville, Wisconsin, in Rock County, Wisconsin, our local police department has put together all of the stakeholders, the recovery community, the religious community, the treatment community, and have come up with a comprehensive way of dealing with this problem. Franklin County, Ohio is a really good example. Rob Portman talks about that a lot. And we're out in the field testing ideas on how to tackle this opioid crisis. That feedback has come to Congress, and now it's resulting in all of these initiatives that Congress is improving on. So we're basically learning as we go, and what we have learned is it is multi-pronged. It's just like Buddy Carter yesterday. You've got to deal with how prescriptions are written. We've got to deal with the pharmaceutical industry as to what pain medications are out there. There ought to be non-opioid solutions here, clearly. And sometimes an ibuprofen isn't enough, but you don't have to have Vicodin. So I'm oversimplifying, but it's treatment and recovery, it's stigmatism reduction, it's pharmaceutical, it's way prescriptions are written, and it's awareness. All of those things, because this is an epidemic that is taking this country. And so we've got to get on top of this. And what I've learned is not only are all these things going to have to be tackled at once, but let's get the resources out to the communities so that we can test different models of prevention and treatment to find out which ones work the best and then replicate those models of success.
Can I just follow up on
Yeah.
that? Will you be getting immediate reports? I think the big question is, people have been saying it's a multi-pronged approach now for years, and the numbers are still skyrocketing
Yes.
on a regular basis. So is there a disconnect? Things just aren't being reported back?
No, I don't think there's disconnect. We have fresh law. CARA is a pretty new law, and we have freshly financed that law. So we're just on the cusp of this big policy front to take on opioids. What we've already learned resulted in 70 bills going through Congress in the next 2 weeks. So that's a pretty quick feedback loop, right? We passed CARA, we financed CARA, we went out and learned lessons. Now we're passing 70 bills that are the basis of those lessons learned, and also lots of research here in Congress. And so we're just going to keep going and fighting this problem until we get this thing under control. That's the thinking here. Yeah.
Involved with Fox. Chairman Nunes has said last night that it's up to either the president or the leadership of the House to force DOJ to release these documents
Yeah.
that have been subpoenaed. Where do you stand on
Well, I
that?
wish I could force them. I'm not the executive branch. But what Chairman Nunes is expressing is the frustration that all of us have. Look, so many of our members, myself included, are very frustrated at the extremely slow pace of compliance of our very legitimate oversight requests by Congress over the Justice Department. Let me take one more step back. We, the people of this country, through our elected representatives, have given this agency a lot of power. And the power to infringe upon a person's civil liberties in the FISA law is a very powerful law. So we think it's really important that we conduct very legitimate oversight of this department so that we protect our civil liberties as citizens. And if there is abuse, we need to call for it. We need to call it out to open. The best thing to restore integrity and trust at the DOJ is transparency, so that we can get to the bottom of any abuses that may have happened, so we can hold people accountable, so that we can get back to good government. And the sooner the DOJ complies with Congress's very legitimate oversight requests, the faster we can get on to repairing things. And the more they delay, the more they stalemate, the worse it gets. And that's basically what I think Devin is trying to describe.
So what are your
Last question.
options, though?
Well, we're looking at all of our options. Right now, I just want them to comply. Just comply with our legitimate oversight requests, and we would spare our country a whole lot of drama if they would have complied. These requests have been out there for like a year. So the sooner they would comply with us, the better everybody would be. And that, for the life of me, I don't understand why they keep delaying these things. Last question, Lindsay.
On immigration, I know you guys are still finalizing finalizing this compromise bill, but once it's out and you guys have whipped it, if the vote count comes up short on the whip, will you still bring it to the floor, or will you continue working it to get it toward 218?
Look, I'm not going to predict what the whip's going to be. Our members felt very, very passionate about having votes on policies they care about. And that is what we are doing. What we're doing also is bringing legislation to the floor that, if it passed all the way through the process, would make law. The last thing we want to do is have some kind of an exercise in futility where we have like a discharge petition that brings something that will never make it into law. So we're bringing legislation that's been carefully crafted and negotiated to the floor. We won't guarantee passage. I don't know the answer to that. Remember when I took this job 3 years ago, I said, we'll bring stuff to the floor that may or may not pass. That's how Congress works sometimes. But we want to give members their ability to express their positions, and I do hope this passes. I think it's a very good bill. I think this is a very good compromise. And this can make law, and that's what we ought to be doing ultimately here. Thank you.